going to get started. Welcome to the meeting of the Carson City School Board. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we'll start off with item 1, adoption of the agenda. One thing I wanted to make a mention was I was asked to strike item 8 as a presentation. They're not ready for the presentation yet, so that's the one change I'm aware of.
I'll move that we accept the agenda with the omission of item 8.
A second. Go ahead.
Okay, second by Trustee Crossman. Any board discussion on this agenda item? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none in person, any via email?
No, Mr. Cassioppo.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Stacy. I know you're there. Item 2, flag salute. Lupe, if you could lead us in the flag salute, please.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, superintendent's report for information only. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, community members. A few things for your information. This week, starting tomorrow, Thursday actually, October 14th through October 26th, we have a series of influenza clinics, and we'd like to make sure that our community members know that these are available. If you have questions about your individual site, please contact your school, and they'll be able to direct you to the specific day and time. Just as an item of information, any students who receive influenza vaccinations can only do so with a signed consent form from their parents. The next item that I have tomorrow, October 13th, will be the topping out ceremony at Eagle Valley Middle School. And just as a way of information, a topping out ceremony is something that the contractor does when they get the final roof structure piece in place. And so this, earlier today, our students at Eagle Valley Middle School and staff had an opportunity to actually sign their names onto the steel structure that will be put in place tomorrow at the topping out ceremony. And so that will actually start at 11 o'clock. So if you'd like to be there a little, right at about 11 o'clock, trustees, you'll be able to sign your name as well and add that to the list for posterity. This event is by invitation only, based on the fact that it's limited. They have limited safety equipment available for those who will be on site. And then I'd also like to let you know that next week, October 19th through the 22nd, the students who are in our freshman academy classes, they'll participate in a virtual career fair. And this is kind of an interesting idea, and it will take those individuals and organizations that are in town who have connected with our work-based learning program, and they will virtually present information about their businesses and organizations in an attempt to familiarize our students with the types of industries and opportunities for employment actually exist in our area. And then in the springtime, the folks from the Work-Based Learning Project will also put together a spring job fair, which will then, we hope, face-to-face connect our community partners with students, and hopefully there'll be opportunities there for potential summer employment and also for work experience internships. So we're appreciative of our community members who are partnering with our work-based learning director to make this project available for our students. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them with regard to these items, or if not, that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. Stokes? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Richard. Move on to board reports for information only. Do we have a Carson High representative here?
Hi there. So I'm Sarah and I go to Carson High, and some things that we have going on this next week is we have a underclassmen makeup pictures this Friday. We have a PSAT taking this Saturday for all the sophomores, and that's at 7 a.m. in the upstairs cafeteria. And then later this month on October 20th, we have a fall band concert here at the community center at 7 p.m. And then a few more things leadership is planning is that we are going to plan for academic letter to be in the North Foyer at 6:30 on November the 3rd. And then one more thing we are trying to plan is we are going to try to have a school beautification club be made through leadership where each club bi-weekly is going to go and just pick up around the school. And that's what we're working on right now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Do we have a representative from Pioneer? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to, how about Nevada Association of School Boards announcement?
So the Nevada Association of School Boards, I know some of you attended the training this last weekend, and I'm sure it was good. I've talked to a couple of you. Also, Stacy and myself and the president-elect, Catherine Whitaker from Churchill, we attended the Pacific Region Winter Meeting at the same time, so we weren't able to be there. The Pacific Region consists of Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. And while we were there doing the business of the Pacific Region, we'd like to thank Stacy Wilkie McCullough, who has served as the chair of the Pacific Region for the past year. So everyone appreciated her service and her leadership during that time. We also had the opportunity to tour two tech centers in Vancouver, Washington with the Evergreen School District. We toured the Henrietta Locke's Health and Bioscience High School program and the Cascadia Tech Academy program, which two different ways in which they are offering tech and CTE classes that I look forward to sharing with you guys in more detail. So please contact me if you'd like more information about that.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll go to board reports. Mike?
Good evening. Just a few things from Mark Twain. So Miss Merrill's fifth graders are having a community service project this October. And so their goal is to collect 3,000 pairs of new socks for veterans. And so they're asking for anyone who's interested in contributing to bring unopened or new packages of socks to Mark Twain between October 11th and the 22nd. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Don?
From Dr. Lee Conley, principal at Eagle Valley Middle School. They raised $1,189 for Juvenile Diabetes Foundation. Students last Friday, October 8th, donated $2 to wear non-standard student attire, and they added a dollar to wear a hat. And that's my report.
Thank you. Lupe?
So from Empire Elementary School, I visited with Mrs. Squires, and they're going to bring back the EL advisory meeting, or committee rather. They're going to start their meetings tomorrow. Dr. Tanya Scott invited me to be part of the advisory, so I'm looking forward to serving in that advisory. And then Mrs. Squires also invited me to a working session that happened today with the teachers from social studies. They're going to be integrating STEM into their curriculum and instruction. So this is going to be really exciting. It's going to give students the opportunity to have real life experience on different projects. They maintained their student growth during the COVID, and that's extremely impressive. Parents are very, very thankful that their kids are back in school. They're very appreciative. And actually, because they have not had a chance to do any fundraising, I guess the parents took it upon themselves to actually make some donations, and they raised $2,100. So it's very nice, especially from that area. We know that there, a lot of families are barely making it, yet they were able to contribute to a very good cause. On October 20th, they're going to have a family outdoor event. They're going to read and treat. They're also going to invite community resources for the families to learn more about what's available to them in the community. The event will start at 4:15 and will go for an hour. So that concludes my report. Oh, excuse me, you know what, one more thing. So I wanted to make an announcement that I have officially retired from my full-time employment, and I am looking forward to visiting the schools in our school district to learn more about the instruction and all that takes place in the classroom. So that concludes my report.
All right. Thank you and congratulations. I'm jealous. Laurel.
Okay, Mr. Brown from Fritz Elementary would like to remind everyone that tomorrow is the last day for the PTA fundraiser. So if you still want wrapping paper and other gifts, contact your favorite Fritz student and their family. And also, they are looking forward to sharing student progress during parent conferences, which will be October 26th, 27th, and 28th. And each of those days will be a minimum day where school is released at 12:40. Dr. Ward DeJoseph from Fremont has said they are continuing their cookie dough fundraiser for the remainder of the week, and that they're looking forward to both virtual and in-person parent-teacher conferences at the end of the month. They will be the same dates as Fritch and minimum days, and they're encouraging parents to sign up when given the opportunity with the teachers. And also, Fremont would like to thank the Carson City Fire Department for coming out to kindergarten and first grade students today. They were able to get a valuable lesson on fire safety as well as a fun exploration of the equipment. I know the fire department does a great job doing that with the young kids, so I add my thanks to that as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Richard.
Yes, I have a report from Warwick Bray. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the library, they'll be holding their parent-teacher organization meeting. On Friday, October 15th, is Western Day, and they're encouraging the students and staff to wear their Western clothes. Monday, October 18th, is an early release day, and students will be released at 2 p.m. Wednesday, October 20th, this is when they're going to have their flu shot clinic. And then they're going to be holding parent-teacher conferences on October 26th through the 28th. And on these days, students will be dismissed at 12:40 all 3 days, and there will be no after-school Dolphin Club that week. And that concludes my report for them. But I'd just like to give a thank you, I guess, to all our staff, teachers, students. I know everybody is kind of stressed out so early in the year, but I just want them to know that we appreciate everything they're doing, and also all the parents and everything that's coming before us to speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. No official report for me. I just wanted to let you know, though, I had a chance to visit, I might have mentioned it already, Bordewick and then Fremont and Carson High School. At Fremont, I got to meet with Principal DeJoseph, toured the school, visited a few math classes and then a younger class. And then probably the grand finale was the lunchroom, always a concern. No, the kids were good, well behaved. The kids in their math classes were engaged, and it was good to see. And nobody knew I was coming. So, Carson High School, I attended an EDU 110 class. That's a class for students who might be interested in becoming teachers. It's as I understand it, it's you get credit at WNC, Western Nevada College. And it was good. The kids had a lot of questions. We talked about what they're going through now, what the board does. We talked a little bit about life after high school for them. And they were asking a lot of questions. It was a fun class to talk to. And then I think in a couple of weeks, I'll be at Sealiger and a few other schools. So I'll post, or I'll let you know what goes on with those visits. Anyway, that's all I had. Next, we have item 5, association reports. Sorry? Oh, Stacy, I'm sorry. Stacy, do you have a report?
Not really. I think Laurel pretty much covered it. We finished up our Pacific Winter meeting and did the incoming chair is going to be Linda from Utah, and then we have the chairman-elect is Sonia McKenzie from the Oregon Society. I think people forget that we're involved at the national level, which I think is really good. And we got a lot of good information from a lot of those people at that meeting that I think Laurel and I and Catherine will be able to share with the association.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 is association reports for discussion only. Do we have any? No association reports tonight? Do we have anything online there? Email, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassiopo, thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Item 6. Again, we'll accept public comment in person or via email. We ask that people come up to the microphone, state your name. Everybody gets 3 minutes to speak. And I've got a list of folks here, a short list. If you did not sign a piece of paper, that's okay. But I'm just going to go through the list first, and then I'll ask for folks to come up. So first we have Michael Morrissey.
Hello, I'm Michael Morrissey with Battleborn Patriots Taking Nevada Back. Recently, I've done a lot of research on this CDC report for the COVID-19 combined with the Delta virus statistics. In the state of Nevada, there's a chart on these handouts I'm giving you for each county concerning the amount of COVID-related deaths. In each county, I also have a chart on there showing the actual population of each county. You'll see that the total of the Nevada population is 3,080,156 people. The total of Nevada's COVID deaths, supposedly, are 7,285. If you divide that number by the 3,080,000 plus, you come up with an equal of 0.002365% of the people are supposedly dying from the COVID-19 in the entire state of Nevada. There was no official coroner's report with any of this stuff listed because they didn't give that information. You can also see that there are 436,244 actual cases recorded of the total. You divide that by the same number, 3,080,156. That means the total population of Nevada, affected by this quote unquote disease or virus is 0.11 or 0.141630 of the entire population of Nevada. This is not a pandemic, which brings me to the point. The real pandemic is the spreading of the fear of this supposed pandemic. The entire report is from the actual numbers reported by the CDC to the state of Nevada and other websites. You see the beginning up there, usafacts.org. This is the CDC nationwide actual report that they have given. And you can see that there's no pandemic. Respectfully submitted as evidence to the education or to educate the elected officials chosen by the people to represent the people, not the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Barb Mathers.
Barb Mathers for the record. So the day after the last school board meeting, I went to the commission planning meeting for the insane location of the slaughterhouse. And I just wanted to give you a heads up that not all of the board members had masks on. The meeting was in this exact same room. They had the same plastic dividers up. And Chair Charles Borders said the commission itself, we're all distanced and separated, and that's the reason we're not wearing masks. Some of us do, and some of us don't. So this intimidation factor you guys are doing with all of you wearing masks actually doesn't have to happen. You guys don't have to wear masks. And I've talked to elderly people who come to these meetings and they can't hear. And you guys have actually mentioned multiple times you can't hear each other. So I would request that at the very least you can pull your masks down so we can understand while you're speaking. The last time I came to this, I shared a statement from Carrera Jones, the freshman in high school, and I sent her full statement to each of the board members and requested that you each go to all of our schools and talk to all of our teachers and talk to the office staff and students to find out what other students are in the same mindset that she is. I wanted to share part of her statement again so you guys can remember what she said. I walked out of the school building that morning feeling so scared and harassed I was shaking. School is supposed to be a safe place, and that morning I indeed did not feel safe. I'm here not only for myself, but also for other peers around me. When we wore masks, I realized that my peers and I became non-social, insecure, and I realized lots of depression. I know I'm not the only one who has anxiety, depression, and a lack of communication while wearing a mask. So after hearing this comment from an actual student, she isn't in our district, that is true, she lives in Douglas. However, I asked that each of you go to the schools to talk to the teachers and talk to the students and talk to the office staff to see what other students are feeling the same way, because there are students in our district who are feeling these feelings. I sent this to each of you and I only got 3 responses back and wanted to share some of those. So Mike said, I'm not going to assume anything is happening in Carson until we have evidence. You guys need to be proactive. You need to seek out these students. If you didn't notice, Carrera was shaking and uncomfortable the entire time she was speaking. It was a very courageous thing she did to come forward. And Superintendent Stokes shared a really long spiel about masks and said, these conditions will continue until the COVID-19 transmission rate in Carson falls from high to low. Once the transmission rate falls to low category for 2 weeks, the wearing of face masks will be highly encouraged but optional, as stated in the district's reopening plan. The fact that you guys didn't even talk about the psychological damage that's happening to our students speaks volumes. That's right. And I realized talking at these meetings is pretty pointless. The best thing to do now,
Sorry, Barb, 3 minutes.
yes, is to campaign for people running against you so you guys can get out of these seats. So that's what I'm gonna do.
So next we have Lee Elliott.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lee Elliott, and it's good to be back and out of the hospital and being ornery as ever. I remember the day when we conservatives were called deplorable. But now we have a new title, and I wear it proudly. I am a domestic terrorist. I wear my title of American Patriot proudly, and I also will wear that new title of domestic terrorist for one reason, because I believe in the Constitution of America and free speech. Does the word bullying come to mind to any of you? I was taught even in my day that bullying was not a good thing. We teach that in our schools today even. In fact, you can be expelled from school if someone is a bully and they have bullied someone. But now I ask you this, are we not bullying people into changing their way of thinking if they want to attend school or even have a job? The masks do nothing but petrify children. And I don't care what parents out there say about their children, supposedly that there's no problem with wearing the mask. That's just not true. Do your research. We're psychologically damaging our children because they're not allowed to see a smile and the laughter is muted or totally distorted by the masks. I live behind Borderwick Bray, and I tell you right now, it's sad to see the kids running around with masks on, breathing hard, not knowing where their next breath is going to come from. I really thought that the board was strong enough and willing enough to go against any mandate that is out there. I also like to comment real fast about Carson High School and the people I've talked to over there. A few of the sources that work there at the high school say the school has become a prison. The discipline has gone right out the door along with morality. There are constant fights there between God who knows what. He wouldn't tell me what factions were fighting each other, but it's happening. Should you not address that issue? When I was working at Carson Middle School years ago, the one thing that I noticed the kids didn't know was just the common stuff that we all deal with daily. Some of them couldn't even tell how to read a clock. By far, most of them did not know how to count change. Instead of teaching CRT or anything else, we should be teaching our kids life, how to deal daily in life. Because if we don't, we will lose this generation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry? You are, but if you don't sign up, I'll still let you come to the microphone and speak. Yeah, you're welcome. Kathleen Sanchez?
Hi there, I'm Kathleen Sanchez. And Lee said a lot of what I was going to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. Because I grew up going to PTA meetings with my mom. She was very involved with my education. And now I understand that as a concerned parent involved in my child's education, the DOJ calls me a domestic terrorist. Well, that escalated quickly from a parent to a deplorable to a DOJ watch list. Well, actually, the only thing that motivated me to come out to this board meeting this evening was the fact that as a parent, I'm really not unhappy with the Carson City School District itself. But I am disappointed that we are no further than we are in March of 2020, when it was 15 days to flatten the curve. As a family, we rejoiced when the school year started. We were told that we could attend school without a face hindrance. Then that right was stripped away from us. You must know that parents aren't pleased with your decisions, but listening to the last board meeting, I get the impression that you don't care what our thoughts are. I know that you personally are not stuck with your face bound up all day long. You take a break, you walk outside, you take a call, and masks are not required when you sit at your desk on a daily basis. My son, who attends Carson High, has to wear a mask from 7:30 when he arrives at the high school until 2:15. And he's an athlete. He has received awards for the school, and he fought hard for the school, and he gives a lot for the school. So when he exits that building and can get some fresh air, I'm just very disappointed that our governing officials here today are not fighting for our children, which begs the question, what are you doing? Your superiority in interaction with our children is that of an abusive parent. Our kids are not good enough. Maybe someday they can remove it. You're not sure. You'll let us know. There is no motivation for them to go to school, to smile or laugh with their friends. The anxiety and depression that I see with these children should be motivation enough for you to fight for our children. When do you say enough is enough? We must get back to living and let our young children take the masks off. I'm discouraged that you allow us parents to speak, but you don't hear us. I hear equity and inclusion in your public comments, but if those new buzzwords were really to be applied correctly, then our children would be treated with respect and allowed to make the decisions that are safe for them and be given the right to wear a mask or not. I, as an adult, can freely choose to decide not to wear a mask. I pay my taxes. I send my children to public schools. They have no rights in these public schools. Please understand that you are slowly killing our children, and not from the China virus, but from low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. The more you play along with the political charade, the more harm that you do. Stop waiting for the politics of all of this to play out and take a stand. It only takes one of you to buck the system and follow the science and know that our kids deserve better than the way they're being treated right now. And I'm happy to see that Clark County is getting sued, sadly, because maybe somebody will listen to us parents and understand that we care about them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Andrew and Jenny Cole.
Tell them that you're gifting.
Good evening, everybody.
He's gifting me his 3
oh,
minutes. He's about
I
to
was
tell
going to
you.
go ahead and say that. Sorry, I
We're-
apologize.
We're,
Yeah.
we're not gifting minutes, though. You just get 3 minutes total. So if you each
Oh,
want to
between
speak
the
separately,
three
you
of
can.
between the two of us. Okay.
Oh, you've done that in the past where somebody else has gifted their 3 minutes.
Right. Yeah, we're not doing
Oh, I
that
see.
anymore. Just, you get 3
Okay.
minutes.
That's okay. Okay.
So I will cut to the chase. That was supposed to be our anniversary gift. It's our anniversary tonight.
Excuse me, folks. We have somebody speaking.
Yeah, would you mind resetting? We've lost 30 seconds already finding out
okay?
that
Yeah,
you
that's
roll.
okay. Let's start.
I
with 3
appreciate
minutes
that.
again.
Thank you, guys.
So I am going to go ahead and just skip through the belaboring of the facts that masks absolutely do not work. They do not prevent any transmission of respiratory viruses. We've known this for 40 years. I'm a healthcare provider of 28 years. I have a wealth of knowledge, but I've also brought a compilation of scientific evidence about masking to submit to you guys tonight. But honestly, what I really want to focus on now that I know I only have 3 minutes is echoed already by 2 members tonight that are here. We are psychologically harming our children. I work with children every single day in an outpatient pediatric practice. I also work at Carson Tahoe Hospital. And I can tell you, kids are scared to death. My little ones, when I ask them to take their mask off because I must examine their mouth, their face, and their throat, they look at me like I've just asked them to do the most scary thing ever. They have blank faces, they don't interact. They're obviously scared. I see new kids with anxiety, depression, tics in my practice. Kids are coming in with uncontrolled movements because they are so scared. Every day, nearly, Superintendent Soaks, I don't know if you're aware of this, our high school girls come home and tell us about the fights that are breaking out at every lunch session. Kids are taking out their anger, their frustration, their aggression on each other. They don't know how to interact socially with each other. And our middle schoolers, you guys are having an epidemic of mental health crisis. At Carson Tahoe Pediatrics, I've seen nothing but kids admitted for the last 9 months. Every time I work a shift there, and I only work there 4 days a month, there's at least one middle school or teenage school student there for cutting themselves, overdosing on pills, trying to hurt somebody else, trying to jump out of windows, jump out of cars. I was there Friday. We have an 8-bed pediatric unit. 5 of the beds were occupied by preteens and teenagers for suicide attempts. I've never seen this before in my 28 years of working in healthcare, ever. This started in the winter of 2020. Kids are losing it. We are nearly 2 years into this, and there is zero evidence for what we are doing to them. I believe that as a board, if you are going to continue to require our kids to wear masks on their faces, it is your responsibility to start showing the burden of proof. What are you basing your decision on? Where's the scientific evidence? Where's the facts? Where's the data? Where is the basis for your rationale other than to say that there continues to be a high transmission rate in our community? We need to know why you are making that decision. The burden of proof is on you, just like in a court of law. We need to understand why you are not doing the best and right thing for our children. That is what you're in those positions to do, to advocate for our children, to make the best decisions for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that is all the speaker forms I have. So now, Joy, go ahead, Joy, if you want to go first. I saw your hand up.
Good evening. Good evening. In 1848, Karl Marx published the Communist Manifesto, a guide on how to destroy a nation and create a communist state. This manifesto was streamlined and modernized by a progressive American community organizer named Saul Olowinski, who published a book in 1971 called Rules for Radicals. Hillary Clinton did her college thesis on this work. According to Rules for Radical, 8 levels of control are needed to create a socialistic, communistic state. The first one is control healthcare, and you control the people. Those pushing a one-payer healthcare system are pushing for socialized medicine where the government makes all the decisions about your healthcare. Government mandated wearing of masks and COVID-19 vaccines is part of the control process. The vaccines have proven to be ineffective and are harming and killing people. We have cures for the virus, but the government still pushes the vaccines and is monitoring who is compliant in taking the vaccines and who is not. 2, increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing them with food, shelter, and income. The open border policy of the Democrats is an example where over 2 million poor, uneducated, unvetted men, women, and children have crossed into the U.S. since January 2021 and will be allowed to stay and given welfare benefits paid for by American taxpayer. 3, increase the national debt to an unsustainable level. That way you must increase taxes, causing more poverty. The U.S. debt is $28.4 trillion and rising. This is causing prices to rise on everything, pushing more people into poverty. 4, gun control, taking away the people's ability to defend themselves against the government in order to create a police state. Defunding the police in Democrat-controlled cities is part of that process. 5, increase welfare and take control of every aspect of people's lives. This has been accomplished by the unnecessary lockdowns, especially in Democrat-controlled states. 6, take control of education. This was done in 2009 with the introduction of Common Core into our public schools under the Obama administration. The government took control of what our children learn, and parents no longer have a say in what is being taught. Our children are now being indoctrinated, not educated. There are 2 more,
Joy.
but I want to say, where is our nation heading?
Thank you, Joy.
Do we, as a people, want freedom or bondage,
thank
a
you.
republic or a communist state?
Okay, next person for public speaking. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Sanders, and I am a mother of 3 children ranging from the age of 1 to 16. And I am very concerned about these vaccines that are being forced onto our children.
Elizabeth, sorry, can you get the microphone a little
Need
closer?
Okay. It's an experimental vaccine. No other vaccine has been called mRNA. This vaccine changes our cells. Does that not bother any of you? I don't want it changing my child's cells in her body. Her body is fine just the way it is. Tonight, I have a couple questions that I would like answers to, and I'd like answers on the record. Number 1, what metrics are being used in your decisions on any vaccine mandates for our children? Where can I find them? What were or are the age groups that were considered? Who from our school district is involved in this decision? If we object as a community, how does that objection work? Is there a process for that objection? What will natural immunity play in all of this? Where will this line be drawn if this vaccine is mandated? Will there be a yearly booster, quarterly booster, or a daily pill that my child has to take? Who will make that decision? Why are there not flu mandates? If it is all about health and safety, why are we not mandating flu vaccines? The flu killed 199 kids in 2019 and 2020. In 2018 to 2019, 144 children died from the flu. 186 in 2017 and 2018. 125 in 2016 to 2017. The list goes on and on. But let's go back to the last pandemic, the 2009 H1N1. 1,090 children died due to that. But yet there's no vaccine. You opened earlier about clinics for them to go get the vaccine, but you're not forcing it upon them. And finally, I asked this board to send out a survey to all parents in your districts like you did when it came to the attire for elementary and middle school. And ask the parents, what will they do if you mandate their child to get this vaccine to go to public school? I bet you anything, you will have a roaring withdrawal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
David Lewis. I'm going to stand up.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, what's your name again?
David Lewis.
Thank you.
So, in school boards across this whole country, I see the same scene playing out. And I see the same actions from all the school boards, ignoring the parents, doing whatever the hell they want. And that's absolutely unacceptable. And I'm going to quote Samuel Adams right now. If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. Move to North Korea. We ask not your counsel or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. I don't care if masks work, don't work, vaccines work, safe, 100% safe, not safe. No man should tell another man that they have to shoot something into their body. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The argument is not whether masks work. The argument is not whether vaccines work. The argument is that our Constitution guarantees we have freedom and we have rights, and that you work for us. We don't work for you. We're not your subjects. And I hate to come in here and kind of yell at you guys, but you know, this is like really frustrating for a lot of people. And I see, like I said, I see this across the whole country, and I see the same thing going on with these school boards. And I think we're pretty docile compared to some of the meetings. And what I think maybe could happen, maybe we could withdraw all our kids from your schools, and maybe we could hire all the teachers that you fire for not taking the vaccines, and we could get our own building, and we could start our own schools. And you guys can take your schools and shove them up your ass.
All right, folks, it's not a sporting event. Next public comment? Yes, I'm sorry, the lady in the back. And while she's getting up, if you've spoken already, well, you haven't, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, my name is Sharon Burnett. I was raised in this city. I'd like a show of hands of how many of you were raised in Nevada. How many were born here? Can I have a show of hands? 2. Doing good so far. I knew the teachers that these streets were named after. The Bordewick School, Al Salomon, all of the different ones that were in here. They actually taught me. They encouraged me. We were number 7 in the United States as far as education goes. Carson City ranked high. All your judges that I went to school with, the educators that I went to school with, I would say that out of my class, 85% went to college, as did I. I fought for the V&T shops in this city and lost to a group similar to you because they already had their minds made up before we ever started approaching them and trying to get them to save that historical international monument. They sold the stones and they went to Napa, California. And I'm looking at you now wondering whether or not you all met at the Old Globe or someplace similar and made a decision on how you're going to handle this. Because that's what they did. I had them approach me afterwards, one in particular, who I went to school with his brother, and he said, you were wasting your time from the very beginning because we already had decided what we were going to do. Now I'm asking you, all of you have been been here for a little while, you know what the score is. You came here, if you weren't born here, you migrated here for a good reason. You left wherever you were because you wanted to be here. When I was young, it was horseback riding and shooting guns and going to the movies and going to the car races and going to the theater and maybe eating out. I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, and we've been together for over 42 years. And I'll tell you what, I'd walked away from him at one time, but I came back to the realization that you can't get anywhere that's better than honesty and hard work and someone that loves you. Now, I don't know how you feel about the students and teachers and everybody that you represent. I have an idea that you probably care about them, but do you put them before yourself? Do you really read the news? Do you get on the internet and look at both sides? Like for one side, you've got the people that they couldn't live if they didn't get the shot. Then you got the other side that no matter what you do, they're not getting the shot. You can imprison them, you can kill them. They're not getting the shot. You all remember Jim
Sharon, your 3
Jones.
minutes are up.
Let's not take the Kool-Aid, okay? That's all
Thank
I'm
you, Mr.
asking you.
President. No,
Don't
thank
take
you.
the Kool-Aid.
Okay. Sir, you had your hand up?
I appreciate that, Joe, for giving me the
you're
time to speak. Thank you. And I just want to think, I believe that all these board members, all of you have a vested interest in all of our students. And I want to thank you, Laurel. I want to thank you, Lupe, Donald, Mike, Richard, and Richard, Joe, and Ryan. Thank you guys just for serving the way that you have. And again, your retirement, that is wonderful. So I just want to say thank you. I know most of you, generally just by researching from you guys being on the school board. However, I didn't prepare anything tonight. And I just want to say my wife has been in the medical field for a long time. And I respect you guys. I respect the comments of the other people here as well. I have 2 daughters that are at Carson High School currently. And they have both voiced to me on multiple occasions. This year has been completely different for them as far as the amount of fights that have broken out because kids are struggling. And I'm here because I'm a parent, I'm concerned. And again, I'm bringing this to your attention. Obviously, you're hearing it from a lot of different people, but I respect you guys. And I hope that you guys understand that these masks, in a lot of ways, they may be helpful if they are the ones that are required for being in the hospital, that sort of thing, the N19, whatever they're called. And again, I'm not a scientist, but again, I just want to share that you're people created in the image of God, and I care for you. And whatever that was said that was offensive to you or hurtful over these last few months, I'll be praying for you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next? Yes, sir.
My name's Christopher.
Sorry,
I've been watching your eyes.
Sorry, I missed your name.
My name's Christopher Burnett. I've been watching your eyes, and it seems like I see a few dead eyes in here. Like, I don't see remorse, I don't see sorrow, I don't feel pain. I see this I only see pain in a few people's eyes, and it's pretty sad to see. I mean, are you gonna apologize to our children when they're adults for the psychological damage that's been done on them? This is like some crazy S&M crap. Like, what is going on? Get real. Drop the charade. The coup is over. Trump's gone. Just get over it. We don't need to lie anymore. So I'm just saying, I would hope you guys can apologize to the children when they become adults and they realize what a lie this charade has been.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to make public comment? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, in the green jacket, did you want to make comments as well?
Would you like to go ahead first, ma'am? Yes, go ahead. You go before me.
Sorry about that. I saw her hand, but I wasn't sure if you were stretching or.
Hello, school
My name's Sue Lewis, and I have 3 granddaughters.
And Sue, can we get the mic? We won't start your time yet. Can we get the microphone closer so we can hear you?
Can you hear me now?
I think it might be off.
Do I press a button?
Yeah, press the button. It should turn green at the base.
Hello?
There we go.
Okay. I have 3 granddaughters that go to Carson City schools, and I agree with the speakers before me. And even the other days I was here, people have really stated things in a good way. And so I'm not going to be redundant. I'm going to block out half of my paper. But I do want to say a couple of things. There's no nice way to say it. These are communist tactics to get in totalitarian edicts while bypassing our congressional system. If we allow this to continue, what will future mandates be like? Will we only be allowed to have 2 children? Will we be forced to only do certain kinds of work? Will we be only allowed to live for a certain amount of years with access to health care? Our Constitution starts out with "we the people." That's us and you. It's not us against you, we're we the people. I don't believe that you are communists. In fact, I don't know you personally, but you're probably all upstanding citizens. The problem is a lot of good citizens don't realize that this oppressive agenda that uses anything that comes along to control us and divide us is extremely dangerous. We need to not go with it. We need to eradicate it and support and uphold all constitutional things that our leaders and representatives will stand for. If we the people, us and you, at this school district will not be afraid to run the school district in a constitutional, sane, and merciful way for our school children, we can be an inspiration to other school districts. Let's not run on fear, but with a sound mind. My husband was a disabled Navy veteran. He almost died on one of his submarines during the communist Cold War threat. He lived with very painful injuries the rest of his life. He would agree with all these things that I have said. I hope for a day that parents can be thanking you and rooting for you as some of the best school board members that we've ever had. Please think about this.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. In the front, I'm sorry. Please.
Is still on? Perfect. Okay. I came here tonight on an assignment, actually.
Can we get your name for the record also?
My name's Amanda. I came here tonight on an assignment for my university. I'm actually getting my master's in secondary STEM education. I currently work at a private school, but I was interested in transitioning to the public sector of education. So I'm currently getting a master's and I'm enrolled in an ARL program at the same time. Coming to this school board meeting tonight as one of my field experience assignments, I was definitely not expecting what I got tonight for public comment, and it definitely has me rethinking whether or not I even want to transition to the public district at this point. Honestly, aside from the public comment that I heard from the gentleman and his wife, who may have voiced some legitimate concerns about how masks can change some aspects of how children can socialize because you can't see the full facial expressions of kids. And that can have some psychological issues that I'm sure we're going to have studies come out with years later in the future that could cause some harm to our kids. I work at a small private school. My kids wear masks all day. They're fine. They don't have any psychological damage. They're not running around getting into scrapes. I don't know what the public school system is like right now, but I find it really sad and interesting that people came here with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night just to complain about a strip of cloth on their kid's face when we could be talking about access to education, equity in our schools. We could be talking about how the fact that Nevada ranks extremely low on education nationwide. We could be talking about how we can improve access to education to kids, how we can improve the quality of education. First of all, second, I doubt anyone here has even read the Communist Manifesto. I have. I'm an educator. Marx was an incredibly ethical thinker and philosopher. Unfortunately, his philosophy has been
Come on,
bastardized
folks.
over time.
Everybody gets their 3 minutes. Everybody gets their 3 minutes.
This is a circus. This is insane. And I find it absolutely sad that you guys have to listen to this every school board meeting. I don't know how long you've had to listen to this. Thank you for doing your jobs to the best of your abilities. Also, I guarantee you, not a single person in this room is an immunologist or virologist. So as soon as you get that education, why don't you come back and actually give a legitimate opinion that matters? Or rather, why don't you try and run for government yourself and see about consulting political leaders about something you clearly know nothing about? Thank you.
Okay, folks. Listen, folks, I'm going to ask you one more time. Everybody gets their 3 minutes. You don't have to agree with everybody, but give them their 3 minutes. Okay, next, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we get the lady in the pink jacket, then you, sir?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow speakers. My name's Karen Stevens. Some of you know me from past employment. My latest employment was the Department of Education, and I oversaw programs for homeless children, neglected and delinquent, foster children, and other underserved populations. But my favorite program was the homeless children program. And I gave it all my heart and soul. When I first started the program, there were very few children that were identified as homeless in all of the school districts. Douglas, I think, only reported 2 children in the year that I came. And when I started going out giving trainings on how to identify homeless children, the gentleman at Douglas actually said to me, "Am I supposed to actively search for these children?" And I was astonished that he said that to me. I almost fell out of my chair. Yes, you have to find these homeless children to serve them. So from the comments tonight, I feel like maybe we're not looking at the issues that are happening in our schools. We're waiting for that information to drop in our laps, and maybe we should more actively seek out what harm is happening to these children that are wearing masks, and identify if we're not doing more harm than we are good with standing with a governor that makes mandates instead of listening to the doctors and the parents and the professionals. One other thing I would like to mention, Mitt Romney's nephew, I don't know if anybody saw those videos of him laying in a hospital bed after he had a vaccine, but he didn't seem too happy about getting myocarditis from the vaccine that he received. And I talked to a mother who took her son to the vaccination clinic at the high school last Saturday, and she took him because he wanted to go to Disneyland. And it broke my heart that he was going to have the jab so he could go to Disneyland. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Lyden Sanders. This lady in the red's my hero. I just want to say that. I want you all to know that. So since she didn't get to finish, Saul Alinsky's 8 Steps to Communism.
Is your
Go
microphone
number
on?
7 is religion. Remove the belief of God from the government and schools. 8 is class warfare. Divide the people into wealthy and poor. This will cause discontent. It'll make it easier to tax the wealthy. So as I look through this, this goes way beyond just school problems, healthcare, poverty, debt. Let's raise the debt ceiling. Does that sound familiar? Gun control's on its way. Welfare, education. It's all already been taken control of. If you care about your home and your children's home and your children's children's home, you will stop this nonsense. We all know this is nonsense. He just gave you CDC statistics that say this is nonsense. Yet here we have to come back and talk over and over. And we all know words aren't making a difference. So what's this all about? What's the end game here? You know? How do we figure this out? You just said on your paper that you can come get a flu vaccine with permission from your parent. Weird. So if you are planning on mandating a vaccine for something that has a 0.032% chance of killing a healthy person, and there's been no child deaths in Nevada, not one. Look it up. What's this all about? I would like an answer for that next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close in-person public comment and see if we have any through email. Renee?
Let me refresh one moment, Mr. Casiopo. I currently have 2, so let me double check here. Mr. Casiopo, this comment is from Michael Rowe. He has 3 children in Carson City schools. I support the continued use of masks to prevent the spread of COVID in schools. My children have not had any issues with masking or suffered any side effects. Additionally, they have not had to miss any school due to illness or possible COVID exposure. They are comfortable continuing to use masks until vaccines are approved for children their ages. We have made our decision to vaccinate based on the advice of our doctors and our children's pediatrician. We cannot substitute that professional advice for Facebook posts and conspiracy theories. My kids are not being taught critical race theory. I have no objection to efforts to improve my children's education. My children will learn things I was never taught because they will grow into a world that I will one day not recognize, and that's okay. It won't be my word and it won't be my world anymore, nor should it be. I do not want to see professional efforts to improve their education tossed aside for the nostalgia of bygone generations. The next comment is from Joe Cyphers. I agree with those that spoke against the wearing of masks. My daughter hates wearing these. They do more damage than good. While they appear to be some good items in the Family Advisory Life Committee, I'm concerned with the presentation by Transgender Allies Group TAG. Helping those kids who need it does not require the indoctrination of every kid in the school above 6th grade. As I have testified before, I am opposed to equity and CRT in our schools. And Mr. Casiopo, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to close public comment. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to move on to item 7. Annual report from the Carson City School District Family Life Committee for the 2020-2021 school year. This is for discussion only, and we have Sheila Story. Okay.
We take a recess, maybe?
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute recess? The speaker's not, we had a glitch. So it's 8:05, we'll resume at 8:10. board meeting. It is 8:11. That's probably as close to a 5-minute break as I've been able to stay. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's a fact. Item 8, the presenter asked for this item to be pulled. Excuse me, not number 8, number 7. The presenter, Sheila Story, asked for this item to be pulled, and we have the ability to do so in the opening paragraph of our agenda. So we're going to go ahead and pull this item, and we're going to move on to item 9, discussion and possible action to approve proposed changes to CCSD policy 420, working periods, which is specific to the work breaks and meal periods for classified staff. This is a second reading, and this will be for possible action. And we have Dr. Delphin presenting.
Thank you. Jose Delphin for the record. Thank you, President Casiopo, trustees. Welcome to winter, everybody. Here we go. Yeah. I'm coming before you on the second reading for policy 420. With that, I just wanted to know if you had any more comments or concerns about the current language that's stated on the draft.
Sorry, Jose, I'm trying to get there.
Oh, sorry.
This is Stacy.
Yes, Stacy.
So just like last time, I'm going to ask both the classified have looked at the ESPs have looked at this and said that it's okay.
That is correct, Mrs. Wilkie. That's what I've heard from CESA.
And Stacy, I received an email, I think the board did, that they were okay with this. Their representative had reached out to us. Any board questions
Yeah,
on this?
Go
ahead, Stacy.
I got that same email, but I just wanted it on the record because I don't think any of the public got that. And then the other thing is, are they still classified if are they still called classified, or do we need to change that classified part on the actual policies and regulations to reflect the group's change in name?
So that's a great comment, Mrs. Wilkie. I know that there's been a movement to retitle classified staff to educational support personnel. I know that we might be doing that during negotiations. So maybe that's a better time to change the title once we all figure out what the new title might be officially.
I would appreciate that discussion. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we can bring that back at that time, because right now, if I understand that correctly, there's not an official title change.
It's a preference from CESA, but not officially a title yet.
Okay.
Which would mean definitely retitling almost a lot of the 400s
paper.
here. Yeah, it's a lot of paper.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board, or if not, we'll make a motion.
I'm wondering about that. I mean, it's a classification, so we have certified who are employees who have an educational license. Classified are employees who don't, you know what I mean? So it's not a title, it's a job classification, and just like we have the unclassifieds, you know, I mean, their actual classifications, so it's not a job title, Stacy.
No, I understand that too.
Laurel, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, it's all of this whole section of policy falls under classified staff. So if we are making a title change, that would have to affect every single policy. And if we're going to get to that point later, I'd be ready to make a motion.
Okay. So is this for possible action?
Okay. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the proposed revisions to Carson City School District Policy 420 to include October 12th, 2021 as the revised date.
Second. Okay, motion and a second. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any remote public comment?
No, Mr. Cassiopo, thank you.
Okay, board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, discussion and proposed changes to CCSD Regulation 420, working periods, which is specific to the work breaks and meal periods for classified staff. This is for discussion only. Again, Dr. Delphin.
Thank you, Jose Delphin, for the record. Thank you again, President Cassiopo, trustees. Looking at the revised Regulation 420, as Mrs. Welke indicated in the last board meeting, she wanted to know where it would be clearly stated. And it is now a little bit clearer as far as what the intent of 420 is with regard to breaks and meal periods, which would match the new title for Policy 420. So in essence, what the changes are is basically what that first sentence says is the following break and meal periods for educational support personnel shall apply uniformly throughout the Carson City School District. So our effort here is to really make it even across all our campuses and all our buildings with regard to when folks are able to take their breaks and meal periods. And I provided some context to this regulation with our state and federal language that is inside your board packet, which mirror breaks and meal periods. The federal government really doesn't specify a length of time for either. However, the state does. And so with that, I don't want to read the entire state document, but you've got it in your board packet. The only difference between what we're trying to reiterate is that the state requires one 10-minute break during the first 3.5 continuous hours of work, and then another 10-minute break afterwards. And then in our language, we're going to keep it to the 15-minute breaks if you're working 3.5 hours continuously, which is paid for, and which matches what the state and the federal guidelines recommend, including NRS. The 30-minute lunch is not paid, so that remains. So basically, what we want to do, the spirit and the intent of the break and meal periods is really not to clump them all together during the day. It was originally intended so that folks who are working their jobs, and we know this, it's hard to just sit down or just, vacuum the floor all day or for 3.5 hours without taking a break. So that irrespective of whatever job that you have, the intent is to get a break before lunch and then after lunch. So hence why we want to make sure that we leave the parts that are tangible and practical for all of our staff that are affected by this regulation and policy, so that it defines really the spirit and the intent of what the federal and state regulations are about.
Okay, so in short, we're complying with the Labor Commissioner. In
We
fact,
are.
we're at least complying with the Labor Commissioner.
Yes, we are complying with it and going a little bit beyond what the
Right.
state recommends.
Okay,
And I did speak with the president of CESA, and she was pleased that we were not going to change it to 10 minutes. So
sure.
I was relieved, actually.
Okay. Again, just for public information, the board doesn't vote on, on regulations. Couldn't think of the word for a minute. And, but they present it to us for information only, so it's information to us as well. So thank you, Dr. Delphin. Any questions from the board? Laurel?
Just a comment, and it sounds like you're in the process of working through what the name would be, because in the first sentence, you've changed classified employees to educational support personnel. And then in the last paragraph, you call them classified employees 2 different times. So I would just say, whatever you decide on for the name, do it consistently in the regulation.
Thank you for that suggestion, Trustee Crossman. I appreciate it.
Any other board comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Dr. Delphin.
Thank you.
Let's see, we're going to move on to item 11. Discussion on proposed changes to CCSD Regulation 275, school social worker, school mental health worker. Both programs, this is for discussion only. Tasha Fusen is presenting.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. Tasha Fuson for the record. During the past 2021 legislative session, Senate Bill 44 was passed that created a fourth type of social worker license in Nevada. This new license type is a licensed master social worker, or LMSW. So what you are seeing is an update to Regulation 275. The current third type of license that we have under SSW's eligibility for district employment in our district, see that licensed social workers, LSWs, is being replaced by licensed master social workers, or LMSW. I know we love our acronyms. In essence, the licensed social worker still exists, but what that's for is someone now who has a bachelor's degree versus a master's degree. So that is just a minor update that we're making to the regulation, just to make it consistent with the changes in state law.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 12. Discussion on proposed changes to CCSD Policy 805, Emergency Operations of Schools. This is a first reading and it's for discussion only. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It has been since 2016 since we have made any potential changes to Board Policy 805. Some of the conditions that have occurred this year have prompted us to take another look at this particular policy. And as you know, the state of Nevada has made some changes in state policy for schools and for the safe operation of schools. And one of those changes had to do with creating an emergency operation plan. And so within that plan, which I believe some of you are members of that committee, that plan has been developed according to protocol, and that was done at the start of the school year. And it is intended to be looked at and mandated to be looked at once a year. And so within that particular plan, there are conditions that take into account the training for other natural occurring or man-made or natural events that might occur, like wildfires. And of course, we saw this school year in particular that there were conditions that brought heavy smoke to our area. Of course, for a number of years, we have done lockdown and fire and earthquake drills. All of these things are part of our emergency operations plan. And so in taking a first look, and presenting to you tonight a first reading of potential changes to Policy 805, is essentially to remove the last two paragraphs, because all of this information is already found in statute and in Department of Education requirements, which we have effectively put into practice. We've also taken the occasion to modify this particular policy so that it represents the board as we have represented the board in other changes or in other particular operations. The bulk of what we actually do is part of the regulation, which again will be brought back to the board at the second reading of this particular plan. But since 2016, we've had a variety of changes. Our systems for contacting families and parents has changed, and we have other systems and processes that are more available and more readily used at the present time. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about either reasoning or some of the conditions that exist here in this proposed policy. And so I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay.
And we'll move on to item number 13, AJ Fueling. Discussion and possible action to adopt a resolution creating a special revenue fund 206 PCFP English Learner Fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education in accordance with requirements of Senate Bill 439, passed in 2021, establishing a pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for English language learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund, and this is for possible action. AJ?
Thank you, Trustee Varner. Thank you, trustees. This evening, actually the next three items will be very similar, but this is a ramification of the new pupil-centered funding plan that the K-12 education in the state is now under. Within that plan, as you've heard me speak over the last 3 years, you're well aware, I think, of some of these provisions, but there is a special weighted fund. There are several special weighted funding categories. One is for English learners, and that's the one we are discussing here in this agenda item. The Nevada Department of Education, in following with Senate Bill 439, which kind of put the final touches on the new funding mechanism, specifically required that any funds received for these weighted categories had to be put into its own special revenue fund. The Nevada Department of Education has now given us kind of the final accounting of what elements, what we call in the chart of accounts, the elements that we need to use to represent these funds. So English Learner Fund would be Fund 206 with board approval this evening, and that will allow us to meet all the requirements of Senate Bill 439 and the Nevada Department of Education.
Okay, AJ, thank you. I apologize, I had to step out for a minute. Yeah. So any comments from the board? Lupe?
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt the resolution creating a special revenue fund 206 PCFP English Learner Fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education and in accordance with the requirements of Senate Bill 439, 2021, establishing the pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for English language learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this? Renee, do we have any remote comment on this item?
No, Mr. Cassiopo, thank you.
And just for the record, I know I stepped out, but I read this ahead of time, so I'm familiar with it. So back to the board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That was a sick eye. Stacy, we're making a little fun of you. Sorry you're not feeling good. Item 14. Discussion of possible action to adopt a resolution creating a special revenue fund 207 PCFP Gifted and Talented Fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education in accordance with requirements of Senate Bill 439 from 2021, establishing the pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for gifted and talented learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund. This again is for possible action, and again, we have Andrew Fueling.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. So to some extent, I want to say ditto from what I just said previously. But again, as a part of the new pupil-centered funding plan, there is a weighted category for gifted and talented learners that will go into effect. This item will create the PCFP Gifted and Talented Fund, fund number 207, and will allow us to meet all the requirements of Senate Bill 439 and those of the Nevada Department of Education.
Okay, thank you. Again, board, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, this is an action item.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt the resolution creating a special revenue fund 207 PCFP Gifted and Talented Fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education and in accordance with requirements of Senate Bill 439, 2021, establishing the pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for gifted and talented learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second by Trustee Varner. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any remote public comment, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassiopo.
Okay, board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 15. Discussion on possible action to adopt a resolution creating a special revenue fund 208 PCFP at-risk fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education and in accordance with requirements of Senate Bill 439 from 2021, establishing the pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for at-risk learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund. This again is for possible action, and we have AJ Fueling once again.
Thank you again, President Cassiopo. Again, this is an item related to the implementation of the pupil-centered funding plan, and the third weighted category within that plan, which provides additional funding for students considered at risk in the school district, at risk being at risk of lower achievement or potentially not graduating somewhere down the line. So this additional funding, again, must be, according to Senate Bill 439, put into a separate special revenue fund, and all the expenditures, again, attributed to that. This resolution this evening to create the Fund 208 as the PCFP at-risk fund will help us meet the requirements of Senate Bill 439 and those of the Department of Education.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, does anybody want to make a motion? Nobody wants to make one.
I'll do it. I move that the Carson
Controversially,
City
Jay.
School District Board of Trustees adopt the resolution creating a special revenue fund 208 PCFP at-risk fund as determined by the Nevada Department of Education and in accordance with requirements of Senate Bill 439, 2021, establishing the pupil-centered funding plan and requiring that weighted funds received for at-risk learners be segregated into a new special revenue fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion, Mike, was that you who seconded?
It was. Laura wasn't reading my mind very well when I was saying for her to make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further board discussion on this? Seeing none, any public comment on this? Seeing none, have any remote comment on this?
No, Mr. Cassiopo, thank you.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item 16, approval of the consent agenda. This one's for possible action. Public comment will be taken prior to any action item. So if anyone has public comment on this, they're welcome.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any board discussion? Seeing none. Any in-person comment on this agenda item?
I think I have one.
Yeah, please.
All right, so I'm slightly new to this, Elizabeth Sanders again. But are you asking if we approve of all the things that you just said? Like from 7 to 16? What's the consent agenda? Exactly is that?
Can we get, rather get make sure you get a clear definition.
Thank you.
Consent agenda are for items that are routinely brought in front of the board. They are listed in paragraphs A through D on item 16.
Oh, so, okay. Then I do have comment. So number D, request permission for student exemption of required vaccinations pursuant to NRS 392.437 religious beliefs or NRS 392.439 medical conditions. Are these for the vaccines that they've already had to get to go to school, or are we talking about future ones like the COVID one?
We're not talking about COVID. We're not mandating COVID vaccines.
I know you're not yet.
Well, right now we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just for other ones like chicken pox
These are the
and
standard
all the other
vaccinations
ones.
that are currently on the record.
Okay. And then I just wanted to discuss something else. Do we have public comment later?
No, so any public comment on anything but this item can't be discussed. It's just this item.
It's just a side one? Okay, so when will we be able to discuss number 7? The school district's family life wanting to bring transgender in to 6th grade.
Well, whenever that gets back on the agenda.
Will we be able to discuss it though? Because it says for discussion only, not public comment.
If it's an action item, you can discuss it during that agenda item. If not, during the next general public comment period at a future meeting of your choice, you could bring up a concern or any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 17.
She has a comment.
On this item? Yes, please.
Okay, Sharon Burnett again. Same thing on D. Isn't it true that if this is the law, that if they decide that they want to require that COVID vaccine, that it would fall under this statute?
I would have to defer to our legal counsel. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. Ryan, I don't know if you're prepared to answer that.
Mr. President, like you said, the COVID vaccine is not mandated. There are state-mandated vaccines. The consent agenda item is a request that you've received for an exemption based on either religious beliefs or medical condition. That is all that's on there.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the COVID virus or anything related to that.
So if it's determined that something like that would happen, wouldn't this legally be, this would be the law? But there would have to be a separate, you're saying there would have to be a separate ruling besides this law?
Mr. Cassiopo, for what it's worth, we can't give legal advice on the board to the public. The law allows for these exemptions to be requested, and that is the item that's in the consent agenda item. So public comment is limited to what's in the consent.
So just what's on the consent agenda. So we can't discuss anything related to COVID or what's going to happen in the future. It's just this request on this consent agenda item.
Why would this number D even be here then if, because this has always been a law, right? what is the change in this law that you're looking at?
There's no change. We're not looking at a change. This is a
Then why
request.
is it on?
Somebody
Why is-
brought this request to us.
Why is it on here?
I just said that.
Why would you include it unless it meant something?
Yeah,
This isn't a question and answer period. If you have public comment, you can make public comment, which is to give your feedback.
Okay.
But we can't discuss private information families submit about exemptions for vaccines with other families.
Okay, well, my comment is that you would scratch this D until there's further clarification so that we can have some public comment in case this does arise. So that if you want to proceed with this, I would say that D needs to come up for public comment instead of being idly just put through, just as a routine. Because I think that there's an exception here. And I think that legally, it would include COVID if it was, if they wanted to. And then you would say, well, we have it right here in the law that it's okay. So my comment is, I would like to see you scratch D if you're going to approve this and have this come for public comment.
Thank you. It's not going to come for public comment. This is a private request from a family. It's a specific matter related to that family. These types of things come to the board all the time. This isn't something new, and this has nothing to do with COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joy?
Joy Trushinsky. I do approve of D. Students should have exemptions, for religious beliefs and medical condition. So I support it 100%. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any remote public comment, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassiopo, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 17, informational items for discussion. Hey, Stacy, can you hit pause or mute? Item 17, informational
yeah, I'm trying
items
to the 2-year-old.
for discussion only. No action will be taken. This is just information for the board. Board, any questions on this? Seeing none, item 18, requests for future agenda topics. Seeing none, I apologize if I can just, I'm a little out of turn, but for informational items, if I may. I met with Deb Oliver from Nevada Association of School Boards this weekend during a training we had and went through the contract with her for the assistance in hiring a superintendent. She and I both signed the contract, and then it was submitted. The public had a chance to review it. It's now been signed by everybody who needed to sign it, and I have a meeting scheduled, or I'm actually coordinating a meeting to be scheduled with Deb Oliver here this week. So I just wanted to let the board know that we're moving forward, and it's just to initially talk about, we're not making any decisions yet, just making sure we have a schedule. And I'll update everybody once I know more. Okay, so item 19, we're adjourned.